Hi, we are Rob and Kathy, and welcome to our channel. Join us for our travels in Australia and beyond. Good morning once more, viewer. Tuesday the 1st of October. Today we're leaving Kings Canyon and heading back to Alice Springs. We visit the McDonnell Ranges, Standley Chasm and Ormiston Gorge and have little walks around them, so we'll be able to show you and tell you more about them as we get there. And then, as I say, we're back in Alice Springs for a couple of nights. We'll see you as we go. Back on the road, we left Kings Canyon behind and headed towards the Mereenie Loop. The Mereenie Loop is an unsealed section of the Red Centre Way, which links Kings Canyon to Alice Springs. The unsealed section has no facilities or fuel stops and is recommended for four-wheel drive vehicles only. You also need a permit to travel on it, as this road crosses Aboriginal land. You can see our journey from Kings Canyon to Alice Springs in blue. It takes us past both Ormiston Gorge and the Standley Chasm. The dirt road portion is 197 kilometres. And as you can see, we really are right in the centre of Australia. Bit of a stop. You can see the dirt road, bit of rain in the air, and we do expect out in the outback it's going to be hot and it's freezing cold. After our brief stop, we rattled further on up the road. Next, it was a pause for morning tea and an opportunity to look at the rather majestic dirt road ahead of us. A little later, we saw these beautiful wild horses, or brumbies as they're called. There are more brumbies in the outback than in the high country for which it's famous for. Our tour guide asked for volunteers to remain behind so that she could fit one of them on the bus. And then we were off the dirt and back on the bitumen. Our next point of interest was the Goss's Bluff impact crater. About 140 million years ago, a meteor hit this spot. The original crater was 22 kilometres in diameter, but has been eroded away to just 5 kilometres today. Back on the road, and our next point of interest was a lookout where we could see the source of the Fink River. Still waiting for that glorious outback weather. On our way again, and this time to check out Ormiston Gorge. As you can see, we're off the bus, and this is Ormiston Gorge lookout we're making our way up to. The walk to the Ormiston Gorge lookout is very scenic, but it's also quite challenging. The further along, the steeper it gets. There were many stairs to climb. I began to have flashes of Frodo and Sam climbing into Mordor. Onwards and upwards. And then we were there. Cook making her way to the lookout. And there were some pretty spectacular views of the waterhole we'd be checking out in a little while. And then, of course, we had to come back down.
We're doing our very own Camino de Santiago trail. Feels very much like the wilds of Spain up here.
Now we're down from the lookout, and we're heading down to the waterhole that you could see from it. It was up the top there. We were at the lookout, and now we're down here at the waterhole. And here is the waterhole, and doesn't it look lovely? Apparently it's freezing cold, but it looks great. Ormiston Gorge is possibly the most photogenic waterhole along the whole Mereenie Loop. It is estimated to be about 14 metres deep at the southern end. The gorge is a near permanent waterhole and is ideal for swimming, especially in the warmer months. We resisted the temptation. And then inevitably we were back on the bus, and this time heading towards Standley Chasm. Situated in the West McDonnell Ranges National Park, Standley Chasm is located on a private flora and fauna reserve run by the local Arante Aboriginal people. The walk to Standley Chasm is 1.2 kilometres, about 15 minutes each way, following the natural creek bed. Most of the walk is fairly easy with a good path. We crossed over several dry creek beds littered with stones. Here is a tree that has struggled through adversity. It deserves to live. The path became a little more difficult and you really had to watch where you put your feet. And then all of a sudden, we were there. The cliff walls of the chasm reach 80 metres and narrow to just 3 metres at the end. And at the end there is a small pool, which is sacred to the local indigenous people. It truly is an awe-inspiring place. Then we were back on the bus. And it wasn't long before we started to see signs of civilization and realised we were back in Alice Springs. As you can see, we're back at the Hilton in Alice Springs. This evening it's dinner and then an early night as exhaustion has set in. Tomorrow is a quiet one, a morning tour of Alice Springs and then basically some time off until we meet up with the Garn again. And the next morning we went on our tour of Alice Springs. Enjoy a few pictures. Our tour group. This is the grave of Flynn of the Outback, pioneer of the Royal Flying Doctor Service. Next we saw the grave of famous Aboriginal artist Albert Namatjira. Up on Anzac Hill we saw Alice Springs Station. And then the Todd River. And here's Cook and I in the Todd River. We then spent a quiet afternoon back at the Hilton and getting ourselves ready to rejoin the Garn tomorrow. Let's have a little look at the Todd River. The origin of the Todd River is in the McDonnell Ranges. It flows past the telegraph station and through the centre of Alice Springs. The Todd is in a very arid part of Australia and has zero flow for 95% of the year. The Henley on Todd Regatta has been held in Alice Springs since 1961 and draws crowds of up to 20,000 spectators. It's usually held in August. It is the only regatta cancelled if there is water in the river. Our day wasn't completely finished. When we got back to the Hilton, we met this guy, who was quite pleased to show off. Stay tuned for our next episode when we're back on the Garn and heading for Darwin. If you enjoyed this, you might hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel.
That's just